Absolutely.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today, Imogen. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm not going to try the Kiwi accent, but I sort of want to at this stage.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I'd like to see it try. It's a
No.
difficult one.
No, it's really, truly, it's embarrassing. But hopefully our listeners out there can understand my Aussie slang. But I do love New Zealanders. They're very close to home and I love working with all of them. So I really appreciate you having me on today.
No, thank you. Hey, so today what I'd like to discuss is really how real estate agents should be utilizing the power of like digital marketing to build their brand, to generate leads, and ultimately grow their business. But before we dive into kind of the nuts and bolts and the strategies, I mean, do you mind briefly sharing a bit about how you first got involved in the digital marketing coaching space and what's your journey been like since you started the Media Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm formerly a broadcast news reader and journalist. I have a cracking news reading voice. That's all from the Media Coach. I'm Imogen Callister. Thanks for joining me. And I studied media at the University of New South Wales, and I did media law, psychology, and I truly loved it. I went on to read I was one of the youngest news anchors to read down the east coast of Australia. But I had one problem. My job was dead. Nobody was watching the news anymore. Nobody was getting home at 6 o'clock. People had news here. And the industry was dying. And I said, I'm going to master what's going to take it. And that's digital and social media. So I flew over to the States. I did a number of courses. When I flew back home, I was so broke, I could barely afford to eat. And my dad said, get a job. And I was actually babysitting, and a woman that I was babysitting for said, why don't you go into real estate? And I was like, oh, okay. So what do you do there? And she said, well, you make a couple of calls. Now, I used to manage when I was 15, the talkback radio switchboard. So I had no problem with people calling me and abusing me. The idea of me calling them and them abusing me sounded fantastic. And so I kind of started in real estate, but I was able to do a certain amount of calls and get a certain number of sales. And that saw me work alongside and still is today one of the most prestigious agents, I think even elitely and globally, Michael Clark. And I helped Michael grow his business from the beginning. There was a little girl inside of me, and, you know, I've been doing digital and social media for a very long time. Actually, to the point where people used to laugh at me. You know, I helped launch one of the very first just listed property ads in Australia. But I remember I would go in and I'd talk to people and I'd say, social media is going to change the way that agents do business. It's just a matter of time. And they would start laughing at me. And their comments would typically be, oh, nobody wants to see who you've pashed on the weekend. And no one wants to see, you know. But I was like, no, this space is going to change. And technology and media assumption is going to change. And so I guess that little girl came together and, you know, backed herself. And I now very proudly run the Media Coach, which is a global company that helps agents across the globe. Predominantly, obviously, in Australia is a lot of my audience and where I call home. But I guess fundamentally, I have three things I want to do. I want to help agents dominate their marketplace through world-class marketing strategies. I want to help them list and sell property faster. You know, there's no such thing as just loading a property to a property portal and that's achieving a premium price. And the last thing that I wanted to help them do is understand the power of a quarterly marketing strategy. Every agent I work with, you know, they go like this.
Yeah.
They'll come into my business and I'll sit them down and I'll say, right, well, what's your next 90-day plan? And they look up at me like, I don't have one of those. And I said, well, that's because you go like this all the time, rather than a consistent strategy. It takes commitment to start and consistency to finish. I have had the privilege of sitting in front of some of the most talented agents in this globe. And let me tell you, I'm sure they wouldn't get offended when I say this. Some of them are not the smartest. Some not the best looking, though some are. But they are so consistent. And I'll give them a strategy and they'll follow it and they'll follow it through. Most people want to try a marketing practice for 90 days or 1 month and then tell me they haven't listed a property. Well, that's not how this works. To nominate your marketplace, you really need a 1 year and a 5-year plan to seriously see market share and growth. But hopefully we can share some of those today with you.
100%. Yeah. I know. I think I love that quote. What is it? It states commitment to start, but consistency to
Finish.
finish. And I think consistency is something that's lacking with a lot of people. This is not even just agents, but people in general. Consistency is difficult, but it is the key to achieving, the goals.
I think a lot of this business is geared around finding a seller, and our job is hard. Most people come to me and say, I want to become a real estate agent. I think, oh yeah, do you think that's going to be easy to? But the truth is most people will prospect, and I hate that word prospecting because it's truly just creating a conversation. But most people will prospect with the outcome of finding a seller, as I will try and transform your thinking into every conversation is valuable for you. Every conversation in your marketplace, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years, and you finding a seller tomorrow is probably one of your worst leads because you haven't nurtured that person into a great relationship status. I often talk about social media, and people will say to me, oh, I've been using social. And I'll say, okay, so what have you been doing? I've been posting. Okay, been posting. When have you been running ads or boosting? Oh, well, they're the same thing. No, they're not. Well, they are. No, they're not. Boosting is basically going to your followers, and a little bit of bad targeting as an ad is far more targeted into your marketplace. Oh, well, I've been boosting then. Okay, so let's talk about boosting. You've been boosting to your followers. How many of those live in your marketplace? Sorry, what do you mean? How many are genuine homeowners that follow you? Well, 2. Do you see the problem?
Yeah.
So, the thing about real estate now, one of my meetings this morning with a client that's been in the industry for more than 30 years, it's not the same. You cannot just expect grind and hustle to make your way through this, because the reality is the data science is there. I'm not 100% accurate about New Zealand data science, but what I can tell you is we are so similar as a nation and things together. But in Australian data science, it is that 79% of people won't answer a mobile call if they don't know the number calling. They will ignore that call. And so what strategy do you have to reach people in your marketplace? Because sitting there and doing 100 calls, you'll most likely connect with 13 people. That's not a lot.
No.
So you need to really have a holistic marketing plan. And if we look at ways of prospecting for real estate agents, I always break it down into 3 categories. The first category that you should always have in your business is what you call a market saturation plan.
Okay.
Agents have forever need to understand, we make a bit of a joke of it, but we need to become the local celebrity, right? And I will challenge that in any small business. One of my husband just went viral on TikTok, and we started walking down, one of where he works, and people you could see recognize him. Same for an agent. You need to be able to be seen, visible in your market. So a market saturation plan is incredibly important. The second part that you need is something around your listing and sold results, because what we know is the more you list, the more you sell, the more market presence you have, and the more ability you have to connect with buyers and sellers in your marketplace. And the other one a lot of people hate, but I love, which is other agents' listings in your marketplace. And you need to have a strategy to leverage off those. A lot of clients will get market dominance because they list and sell the most amount of homes in an area. Well, it's very easy for me to counteract that. I prospect around your listings. But they're really, depending on what level you are in your real estate career, and nobody really likes the last one, but that's the truth. When somebody sells their home or lists their homes, neighbors watch, and people go into a heightened emotional state into thinking of what they're going to do watching that sale. So there are 3 really key pillars for an agent in a prospecting plan.
Yeah, perfect. And so I would love to dive into that in more depth, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
So let's just say, I'm an agent. I'm putting aside 10% of my income to reinvest into my business and marketing and prospecting and things like this. So I'd say I've got 20K to invest for the year. What are some, would you say, are the highest yielding marketing strategies that I should be implementing in my business to ultimately grow it long term? And happy to look at, like you said before, that market saturation, like the different strategies. Where would we start if we've got a kind of a 20K budget for the year?
So the first thing I would say, any great agent needs to invest 20% back of what they're doing.
20%. Okay, so we've got 40K.
So we've got a lot more money. No, not every agent has that, right? It depends on their level of where they are in their business. But for a really successful agent, this is the only industry where you need to spend money to make money. Okay. So if you're sitting at writing $1 million, you do need 20% back in your business to generate more listings. There's there's 4 things that make a great agent. One is prospecting, one is marketing, one is listing, one is negotiation, right? Break it all down. They're the 4 things. And the first 2 is what you're talking about there. Right? So obviously not every agent has money to invest where they are in their career, but conversations are free. It just depends on how you have them. So, if our audience is listening there, I would love you to draw a circle for me right now. If you're driving, don't do that because that's illegal. But if you do want to draw a circle for me and think of almost like a pie chart, and I want you to create your first piece of the pie. And the first piece of the pie needs to say digital health check, because before I go off and start generating you more leads into your business, the first thing that you need to understand is people will qualify what they find online. So are your profiles saying trustworthy, passionate, considerate? Nobody believes that. If I walk up to you today and tell you I'm trustworthy, do you think I'm trustworthy or do you think I'm a liar? So there's 3 things that people look for in an agent. The first one is trust. Second one is credibility. And the third one is outstanding negotiation skills. Look at your digital health check and ask yourself, do you have great reviews online? Ask yourself, are you showing that you're credible or you've got a great track record in your market? And the last one is your experience. You really do need to showcase that in some way or form. The next little piece of the pie that I want you to draw is social media. That's obviously my favorite one, so I'm going to put that first. But the reality is 97% of all New Zealanders, I believe, and Australians have social media in some form and some capacity. Now, most people don't like this stat, but it's the truth, with an average time of every day of between 2 to 7 hours online. If you don't believe that, go and have a look at your apps and usability now. So social media plays a really big part, but it's a far more advanced strategy, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. The next pie that I want you to put together is text message. So every call you make, you need to text. You need to have a regular nurture plan to your data that you've got and secured through a text message strategy. I don't know what number I'm up to now, but let's pretend it's 4. The 4th one that you need to have is calls. They still are incredibly important and not completely dead. Calling your pipeline is still very valuable. Calling people in your marketplace is valuable, but you just cannot rely on it. You obviously need to then have a print strategy to your marketplace. And I'm not talking about sending out a just listed and sold DL because they go in the bin. Then you've got an email strategy, which is, as long as they don't look like spam, the more it looks like a spam and the less that it looks, the prettier it looks, the worse it will do.
Yes.
And the last one that you have is door knocking. So put together your piece of pie and write down those strategies that I just gave you. These are the ways that you open up doors. Unless somebody's come up with a mythical way to communicate with people, I'm pretty sure I've covered off the top ones there.
Yeah.
Now I want you to choose 3. Okay. And choose 3 that you're going to stay consistent at for the next 90 days. A lot of people love to come to me and say, well, can I do things for a month? Can I trial you for a month? And I start laughing and say, no, with money. You have to do things for 90 days and then you assess after 90 days. So if you're an agent sitting there and you're thinking, I hate door knocking, don't do it. Choose another pillar. If you're an agent sitting there going, I really want to understand social media, keep listening to this podcast. But if you hate social media, it's like people say to me, oh, I've never used my LinkedIn profile. And I'll say, well, then why do you have it? Get rid of the things that you don't want to use. You don't have to go out and door knock hundreds of doors if you really don't hate it. But you have to accept being an agent. You have to create regular conversations in your marketplace. So choose 3. And once you have chosen those 3, then what you need to do is map out a strategy. Now, your question to me is what is going to be the highest performing, right?
Yeah.
The truth is, for the highest results, you would want to be using an advanced social media targeting strategy, targeting your database that you're communicating with, because that will add a really high level of communication with them. Texting that obviously at the same time, and print is really not dead because everyone has a letterbox still, right? They would probably be my three. I mean, even though I do love talking and calling people, I do know that most people won't answer a call. So they would be my top three if you were to ask me what I would choose.
Cool. So that's social media, a text message strategy, and a print strategy.
Correct. And then you would have to say to yourself, okay, well, what budget can you invest in each? So maybe we start with social first, right? One of the piece of pies. So typically the biggest problem you have with social media with real estate agents is they don't understand it is a play-to-play space. You cannot make people in your marketplace will not see you unless you're investing money into social media. And there's typically three types of ads that you need to be running. The first ad that you need to be running is securing vendor paid advertising through your vendors and leveraging social media just listed campaigns. Every day I secure about upwards of around 20 sellers click on listed campaigns and come through into a pipeline to sell. Why? Because every person compares their property that they see in that listed campaign. Sold campaigns are very advantageous for your brand if run well. So the typical agent will run a sold boosted ad, just sold 4 bedrooms, 5, blah, 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 blah. There's a gnome in the garden, the property sold for this much. Contact me for more information.
Yeah.
Never give away the sale price and create a conversation through your sold marketing strategy. And the third one that you need to be running consistently is brand awareness campaigns combined with lead generation. If you do these three in harmony, what you will regularly see is conversations drive back through your social media and create lead uptake. But don't think you're going to get somebody to click on a Facebook ad and say, here's my name, here's my number, and I'm looking to sell in 2 days. Because I will fly to New Zealand and slap you in the face. This is about creating a streamlined conversational plan with your market. Somebody that clicks on an ad today, tomorrow, or in a quarter's time needs to be followed up. Need to have a nurture plan in place. I think one of my clients listed a $7 million home this week from Facebook. That person clicked on an ad 6 years ago.
Right, exactly.
Purchased through them and has gone on to write me another Facebook message saying we need to get our property ready. So please understand, go to a bar tonight, give it a crack. If you're a good looking rooster, just walk up to a lady and just say, could I have your name? Could I have your mobile number? And your full address, please. And I'll just pop out tomorrow because I'm pretty sure you'll get slapped in the face. Look at it differently and look at your follow-up plan in social media, and it'll change the way you do business. Text message.
While we're just on that. So when you talked about, just sold, and they said there's a right way and definitely a wrong way of doing just solds.
Yeah.
What's a kind of a playbook that you've seen that works well? Is it, you said leave off the sales prices, so is it having a call to action that says find out what the property sold for?
Get in touch to find out, run it as an ad to the marketplace.
Right, got you.
Interested in, and obviously ideally you're using bot conversion on the end of that so that the consumers are not waiting for you. But every sold ad, you have the ability to connect with neighbors. There's 3 things that make somebody interested. So when you study to become a journalist, you learn about news values, right? And if anybody actually really wants to learn how to market to people, they should really look it up on Google. But essentially, there's 3 things that will create people's interest in your marketing as an agent. The first one is proximity. So what is proximity? People are interested in what's close to them, right? If I said today, there's a war going on in Australia, you might go, well, I care, but it's not where I live. Right? But if I said tomorrow there's one in New Zealand, you'd be like, oh, right?
Yeah.
People, suburb marketing on social media, you know, people are scrolling through nudes, vegan bowls, and then it needs to be like Forestville. Oh shit, that's where I live. You know,
proximity.
timeliness is the idea that it's happening now. And that needs, you know, typically agents just listed, just sold. It's why they've always done it traditionally. And then impact. This has changed your property price. This has moved or shifted local home values in this area. So ask yourself those 3 questions when you're marketing your Facebook ad, and it will significantly change the way that people create a conversation with you. That conversation then well managed. You know, one of the things that blows my mind is how many hours we spend dialogue training as real estate agents, the perfect dialogue on the phone. And look, I do more than 100 conferences a year. And, you know, if I see another real estate coach take to the stage and tell me about calls, I will kill myself. I do understand it's a big part of the business, but what I always get quite fickle about is how many hours agents spend training their dialogue on the phone, then get to an Instagram message and a buyer says, what's the price guide? And they say 3.2.
That's it.
What? Sorry, what? Did you just write 3.2? And you'll say, well, where's that going to go? Oh, I was just replying to it. No. We are currently seeing buyer feedback around the 3.2 mark. I'd love to help you with your property goals. Are you researching the market to buy, invest, or are you comparing this home to yours?
Totally different.
Ask the question. Bring them into a conversation. You know, the other one I see often is, oops, I didn't mean to click on this. Okay, so nobody accidentally clicks on ads. Nobody ever does.
Yeah.
It takes an action and a follow through. So if it's a listed ad and they're writing oops, have you ever taken the time to consider that they're probably a nosy neighbor comparing their home, but they're not a genuine buyer, so feel like they're wasting your time? Don't just write back, no worries. Write back, hey, Immy, we love it when people browse our posts. I'd love to help you. I'm actually preparing a few reports for neighbors today. Could I pop you one? And all of a sudden you have brought that person into a conversation. If you just look at social media as lead generation, which it is a great place to lead generate from, however, if you continue to do that, you will spam your market. And you need to look at having great conversations with people living in your market. If you're sitting out there and you do have a pen and paper, write it down for me now. You want to grow a great real estate business? Here's how simple it is. Conversation equals relationship equals nurture equals client goes back into nurture. They are the steps. Stop trying to jump on social media from conversation to client, or like I like to say to my clients, sleep with them on the first date. And have a healthy conversation. And all of a sudden people will say, oh, you know, this is where I live. I wouldn't mind knowing my property price. Look at all the leads you've generated with social media. What's your next follow-on action plan? What are they going to receive from you every 90 days? What touch points? The Easter property report, the end of financial year for property report, the spring property report. Immy, we've just reached the end of 2024. Can you believe it? Here is a comprehensive guide of all those sales that have impacted your home's price.
That makes complete sense.
That will change the way you communicate with people. It will change the way that people perceive you as valuable, not commission hunting.
Yes. What you say is just obviously resonates with me hugely. So like when I'm speaking to the officers and agents, I use a very similar step and you just mentioned, which was conversations lead to relationships lead to opportunities, and opportunities lead to listings, and it all came back to adding value and starting conversations. And so it's so great to just hear someone else, even though you're over in Australia, you're preaching the same thing as what I'm talking about as well. And when we speak to agents, it's all about having conversations and value added conversations that really position you as someone who really cares about them.
It's the most important thing is, you know, one of my very successful, I get calling him a business partner now, but clients also, Maddie Steinwade, you know, we run agent school together. I mean, he is just, if you haven't heard his story, take the time. He's gone from homeless to, I would say, globally, one of the most elite performing agents. And, you know, the system that we work together and have done for many years is always focused on conversations. And he talks about low hanging fruit because we focus on the low hanging fruit. Who's going to sell, rather than drawing people towards us, that when the time is right, they don't look any further but Immy. You know, I've seen it before. I will get a property appraisal and then I won't hear from that agent.
Yeah.
You know, so I tend to say now, leads are valuable in real estate. And 2 of my masterclasses I do is one kind of around lead generation. But the second one is your lead nurture plan, because every conversation you have is valuable. You know, every conversation that you have is incredibly valuable. They could be a person living in that community. You know, I was at the park the other day and a woman came up to me and, you know, my little girl was playing and I said, oh, you know, do you live locally? She goes, oh, no, but we're looking to buy in the area. And I said, oh, okay. Have you considered a buyer's agent? I could give you a few numbers. You know, if you're really struggling, they have access to some off-market properties. She said, that'd be great. And I saw her 3 months later. She said, oh, by the way, I bought through that buyer's agent.
Wow.
But if you look at me as just not willing to sell my home, you're not looking at me right. I could be your world's biggest voice, right? And I'm obviously, we've established I don't have a problem talking through this podcast. So imagine what I'm doing out at the local park. But social media, you need to create a holistic strategy and you need to understand it's not just about lead generation, because that's what we always want from things. What's your name? What's your number? And when do you want to sell? It's about creating great conversations in your marketplace. And when those conversations are well managed and well nurtured, and some of my clients have over 3,000 highly engaged people in Lead Center that get a follow-up every quarter. Just a message, like an email database, but it's more engaged. You can use a remarketing strategy of everybody clicking on your ads to be able to read. So it's just far more advanced, but do not be fooled. That's not free and it takes a healthy budget. And, you know, vendor paid advertising at listing campaigns, you know, maybe some of your listeners, if they want to reach out to me via Instagram, I'll send you my complete VPA kit and also my dialogue for securing social media VPA. But it is so important that you master that because it's free advertising for you. But more so, I sell a property a day through social media, property a day. And because I see a client will get a message and then that client will come back to me saying XYZ turned up to the open home and XYZ. You know, I had one, and you can listen to my podcast with Flossie. The client turned up from social media on Thursday and paid $500,000 more for the home on the Saturday.
Wow.
So if you're thinking you're doing the right thing by your seller by not using social media, understand the difference between a passive and an active audience.
Yes.
Active buyer on your property portals, passive, not. Upsizing, downsizing, pregnant, in a circumstance of change, burnt out from their property search, put that property front of mind with them, and social media has that impact.
Got you. Yeah. And so what does there's so many things I'd love to talk about, like the lead nurture and what does you don't have to mention an agent's name specifically, but what does the ideal kind of nurture sequence look like? So a lead comes in to what's the, you know, hypothetical great scenario? You mentioned the end of financial year market report, blah, blah. What would that look like over a year?
So obviously you have to, and most people have a CRM. I hate them. Well, I do love them and I hate them.
It's a love-hate relationship, Sarah.
The first thing that I would say is stop relying on the CRM to make your life perfect. Get an Excel spreadsheet. And once somebody says yes to a text message or yes to a social media campaign, they go into that spreadsheet that you look at every single day. And you just have a last contacted date. So this takes a little bit of the agent human element, but let's get real here. Real estate has nothing to do with property and it's got everything to do with people. So, you know, most people want to say to me, Immy, I want to sit down and I want to have a customized, but well, that's not going to 100% work because everybody is in a different level of their selling process. So to be $1 million writer, I would encourage you to have over 150 people in the pipeline. That gets looked at every week. What do you do? So some of those people might need to be contacted every week. Some of those people might need to be contacted every quarter. What you never want to do is believe that you can leave them there and that they will call you. Always stay in touch. You never know when someone's circumstance changes. So a healthy touch point plan is really geared off their level of where they are. And it's always developed around the law of because. So if you're using the C word and the F word, you can do that in your private life, but try not to use it in real estate. And I'm talking about checking in and I'm following up words, right? Not those dirty ones, even though I thought you. The checking in and just following up, always have a reason why you're contacting those people, and don't bombard them. You know, Immy, the reason why I'm contacting you today is another property has sold around the corner from you. I wanted to let you know it's shown that property prices remain strong in your area. How are you?
Yeah.
You know, if it's a quarterly check-in, it looks far different into, hi, Immy, the first part of the year has kicked off fantastic for our local property market. We've seen a surge in local prices by around 2%. Despite media reports, things remain strong. Would you like me to email you a price update with the most relevant sales to your home? Don't try and think about the next stage of how you can add value to their life. And for a really highly targeted list, you need to have that in front of you. It's not some systemized plan. But
that could be via call or text message, or even what, email and letter. Like you could do this in different ways, or are you preferring call here?
Again, it depends on the way that person likes to communicate. What I will employ you to understand is people are less likely to spend time on the phone with you, and every call you make is an interruption in someone's day. So unless it's really valuable, send them a text message.
Yeah.
I have to be honest here. If you were a real estate agent and I was looking at selling my home, I have 2 kids under 2. I run 3 businesses. You'll piss me off if you're calling to say hi.
Tell me what I need to know.
Right?
It's impacting me.
But if you sent me a text message, I'd probably write back, good. The other thing that agents get so offended by is that people are busy and don't have time to respond to them. Just because they don't respond to that first message, don't give up, right?
100%.
Keep going until they tell you their fault. Right?
Yeah.
But if you use the law of because, and you use those contents that are proximity, timeliness, impact, every time someone reads that text message. I had a text message lead the other day. Now, this person had ignored 28 messages I'd sent him for 3 years. 28 messages, not a single response. Then he just writes back, thanks. Yes, we have decided to sell. We want 3.7 million. Are you available tomorrow to prepare sale? ? And it's like, because he's read every single one of my messages. He's read every single one of the messages. So it is incredibly important that you have a nurture strategy in place and that the information that you're offering is valuable.
Yeah.
But most agents do ask me that question. I'm not trying to skirt the question. The problem is you can spend hours mapping out a nurture plan, and you should have one for the year of your touch points. And I kind of mentioned a few of those. You've got your start of the year 2024 report, Easter property report, general price update, spring market report, downsizing, upsizing guides that you can create, you know, conversation starters with.
Yes.
But don't just think, okay, well, this person goes into this funnel, because the truth is that's not a human experience.
Yeah.
And if I have moved in that progression that I am going to move in the next 1 to 2 years, you sure as want to make sure that you're contacting me every month with a human-based element and a customized strategy to me.
Yes.
If you're bringing in 3 to 5 leads into that pipeline, and you're never going to win them all, but you will create a natural plan where you'll just build that pipeline, and that regular communication strategy will pop out in front of you. You don't need to stress about it.
Yes. No, I didn't think we were going to go here on this conversation, but when it did pop up, I'm like, we just definitely should double down on that, because I don't know, from my point of view, from the marketing space, generating leads, you know, it's not that difficult to generate leads. It's the next step that's so crucial, which is the nurture process. And that's where a lot of agents seem to fall down, is, you know, they do an appraisal or whatever, but then they never speak to that person again, and turns out 3 years later they've listed and sold with someone else, and they've missed out on an opportunity. So it's really cool to just dive into what your thoughts were around that nurture process, because I think it's even more important than lead generation.
So we're just about to hit, well, we're in quarter 2. Do yourself a favor, Go and write yourself 8 text messages for the next 8 months. 8 text messages under 180 characters with generic templates. And that will help you master your pipeline. Because it's very easy when you break it down. What most agents aren't good at is going, what am I going to show them?
Yeah.
Have a process in place. So at the start of each year, obviously I send out more than 20,000 text messages a day. So you can imagine I've got a bit of an art when it comes to sending a sexy text.
Yes.
No nudes, unfortunately. Engagement, but not great for your agent brand. But if you just map out and formulate a strategy, that is always shiftable and movable. You know, think about timeliness, interest rates going up. Think about interest rates on hold. Think about that timeliness element, because that can change your nurture strategy. But if you just have that 12-month plan and you're thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to hit my pipeline up with, it's valuable, meaningful, and information. You know, we're in winter. What does this mean? We do see a lower level of buyer activity, but those that are out in the market mean business. Yep. So I'm going to keep you up to date, Immy, with those sales and see how the market tracks for you for spring. And depending on where that person is, like that person may not be moving at all. You should still be sending them a message every quarter, letting them know about the market if you've got their number.
Yes.
100%, you know, so I'll quickly jump into text message strategy.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So,
I know we're going with time. So yeah, let's jump into text message for sure.
Text message is incredibly important. One of the things that I could highly encourage you to do is Facebook target your database, because then if you are using a text message strategy, you'll triple your results. But text message, why? Well, less and less people are answering their mobile phones, yet it still sits in their hand. So look at conversation as different. Phone doesn't need to be here, it can be here. The rumor has it, and I don't know if it is 100% true, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but rumor does have it that New Zealand may relax its privacy laws, because I do understand that there is some issues around getting mobile numbers and it is incredibly hard. But if you do have a highly engaged contact list, and sometimes that does take the first year of hitting the ground and door knocking and getting people's mobile numbers. I won't go into door knocking scripts, but if any of your listeners do want my door knocking script to be able to get someone's mobile number,
yeah,
send me an Instagram. I'll send you my door knocking script, because a door knock should not be about selling your home. A door knock should actually be to get their number, right? Yeah. And so once you do get people, or you've got a great contact list, you should be at least messaging your database every quarter. If you are using just listed and just sold messages, know that I will come to your house in New Zealand and slap you. Because that is tremendously dangerous for real estate agents. You know why email marketing is dead?
Spam.
And the idea that people send out hundreds of just listed messages to neighbours makes no sense to me. It never has. Why would I care about my neighbour's home being listed? I own a property on that street. That communication, and that's typically, hi, just letting you know you just listed, 4 beds, 3 baths, 2 cars. And it's written as a buyer message to a neighbour. Incredibly damaging. If you are going down that line, please get to understand the right dialogue. Hi, Immy, I wanted to personally let you know your neighbour's property is coming to the market. The reason I wanted to share it with you first is in case you had any family or friends interested in moving close by. I promise I'll keep you up to date with the sale price.
Yeah.
The sold message, again, drive them back into, Immy, I promise to keep you up to date with what that property sold for. I'm delighted to let you know it achieved a premium result of XYZ. This has increased your local home's value. I'm visiting a number of neighbours today. Would you like me to do an on-site inspection for you, or email you a report on your home? Don't ask them if they want an appraisal. Tell them they're getting one.
Yeah.
Right? But most agents don't understand the real power of text message comes from a data nurture strategy. So if you have contacts, every quarter, send them a message updating them onto the market. You can't just appraisal hunt all the time. Sometimes you do need to look at a message as a just nurture, right? Happy Easter, Immy. You know, the property market has performed very strong in the first quarter. I wanted to personally let you know we've seen over the last 5 years a upward trend of around 15% across our local market. Of course, if you need any information, I'm available anytime. I hope the Easter Bunny sees you
Yeah.
over the weekend. Don't have to always be like, want to sell, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But text message, whether it's you doing cold calls and following people up with a text message, you leaving a listing appointment and sending them a text message, please understand it will change the way you do business if you choose to implement. It really will. And I guess the last one that we kind of mentioned there, which feels a little bit redundant, and most people as a digital specialist go, she chose print.
Yeah, well, tell us more. Why
Yeah.
print, and how should it be used to, like, outside of the boring just listed, just sold flies? Like, how
That's
should
what
print
most
be
people
utilized?
do. So print is not dead. What is dead is advertising print. But what agents need to understand most, and will come to me and I'll say, are you doing print? And they'll say, yep. And what are you doing? Just listed and sold deals. Right. How's that going for you? Terribly. Okay. So again, strip it all back. What is your quarterly strategy? And you can choose to do 4 or 3 touch points. The first letter is always a results-based letter. These 4 properties have sold around your home and have impacted your property price. The second one is what I call a value letter. Have interest rates changed property prices in XYZ? This is the trend that we've seen, but you're offering value back to that consumer.
Yeah.
You can add a personal touch, handwritten cards, colouring competitions, all those type of things. And then your last one can be what's considered a quarterly market report. With all the sales in the market, almost like a magazine for them to enjoy and understand. There's 2 differences in print versus social media. Print will be a highly more expensive strategy for you if done. So a great print strategy would cost an agent roughly around $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Depending.
And this is a combination of sending it directly to someone who's on their database, or is this a more of a generic, I'm sending it to the whole street, or a combination?
Whole street.
Whole street.
You got to get your whole suburb.
Yeah. Okay. Got
Right?
you. Okay. Cool.
So the great thing about social and print is you have the ability to reach your whole suburb.
Yeah.
Calls and text you don't, because it's the only numbers that you have that you reach. So most agents like to sit in their office and call the numbers that they have. Sorry, where's the new lead generation being brought in?
Yes.
Rely on open homes. Well, sad news, people aren't attending, neighbours aren't attending open homes. So that's why I say print is still very important, because it gives you a place to put something there.
Yes.
The more it looks like an ad, the worse it will perform. And not everybody has, sorry, 3,000 a quarter, not a month. Not everyone has that budget. You can do it at a cheaper budget. Yeah. But that requires you to door knock. Right?
Right. Yeah. And when you say door knock, we're door knocking around listings and things like this and this type of thing.
And break it down into 3 categories. Market saturation plan. What core market are you targeting? Hotspot strategy. What other agents' listings are popping up and do you need to go do? Your own listing strategy. See, most agents work off their own listings. Yeah. Never versus their whole market. So the best thing that you can ever do for a print strategy, look at your market, draw a cross through it, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. What is quadrant 1 going to get this quarter? What is quadrant 2 going to get this quarter? What is quadrant 3? What is quadrant 4? And map it out. Okay. That means every quarter, they may hear from you once or 3 times, depending on your level of budget that you have within your business. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, I don't know the spam laws as much as I do know for social media over there, but that's why door knocking, I really think the only wrong thing you can do is not wear deodorant. As sometimes people will get offended if they've got a no junk mail on their letterbox and you pop it in there. There's obviously ways around that, but a lot of agents say, oh, well, everyone's got no junk mail. Go knock on the door. Yeah. Right? People will tend to be more sassy with you over social media than when you stand in front of them. Yes. But again, some agents hate door knocking, and I understand that. It's not an enjoyable experience. No one likes to wake up and go, yay, today I'm going to knock on 7 doors. But don't look at it as, are you going to ask them to sell? Ask them as a way to get their number and then put them into a regular communication strategy. And there's very simple ways to do that. But you should always look and reflect on a couple of things. Branding, marketing, advertising. 3 words, totally different meaning. Branding, what is my unique selling point and how am I representing it to my market? Marketing, what channels am I using to get that message displayed? I've given you 3 of my favorite ones, but if you have others, feel free to reach out to me on my Insta and I will share some other great strategies. And then advertising, you know, you have to pay people to amplify your message. For years, you know, people will go and look at a bus stop and I'll say, how much you pay for that? $5,000. Give me $600 to run a sold ad. You have to understand that everything in real estate does require you to have a personal brand budget. And most great agents I work with, when things are tough, and I remember when interest rates changed, Matt, who actually has just called me, he picked up the phone, he goes, right, we're going to triple down. I said, triple down on what? And he's like, I'm going to triple my budget. While most people take their foot off the accelerator, I'm going to triple it.
Yeah, got you.
And he knew at that point his budget was going to get tighter, but he knew he had to, because the listings were going to get tighter.
Yep.
And he still writes 20 sales, 20 solds, 20 listed, 20 sold a month, you know. But, and hopefully if any of your agents are coming to Eric, I'd love to see you. I'll be with Maddie. Maddie is speaking this year. But, you know, we always have to think about prospecting and marketing. And I hope, if anything, if they could take out of today, is it does take planning, you know, stop spraying and praying and stop making real estate hard. You make real estate hard when you walk into the office and go, what am I going to do today?
Yes.
Versus having a 90-day plan and a 90-day nurture plan, or a yearly nurture plan half mapped out so that you don't have to think about it. And then you prioritize those activities. And I promise you, your business will stop going like this. It'll start going like this.
More consistent. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Imogen. Hey, before we kind of wrap things up, what would be, I guess, 3 resources you might want to recommend to other real estate agents who are listening that might help them grow their business? You know, it might be a podcast, a book, a training, a course. You know, you got 3 resources. I'm kind of throwing you on the spot.
It's all about me, and I'm going to look like I'm
throw a couple of yours in there.
Resources. Obviously I'm a director of agent school. But the reason why that business was set up is because I genuinely, Matt, if you've ever met him, he really cares about giving back to people, and he'd get so many Instagram messages like, how do I grow my sales career? How do I, you know, do? And I used to say to him, well, you can create a space where real estate agents can do that. So hot off the press, and probably only for your New Zealand audience just yet, but agent school will transform into the ultimate agent over the next 3 months. So if you get pre-registered interest now in agent school, you will get the discount price of joining Ultimate Agent, which is actually a 3 growth program. It not only includes a business prospecting and leadership growth program, it actually is about accelerating your wealth as an agent and how to invest it. And lastly, your health. If you're feeling stressed out, burnt out, really struggling in this industry, that will become that space. So agent school is great, but it will transform into the ultimate agent. Podcasts, obviously I listen to way too many of them, but I'd love you to join me on my podcast, which is Agents Only. And I do that regularly with some great industry thought.
What was that called? Sorry,
Agents Only.
Agents Only. Yeah.
And if you really, I think one of the biggest things about this industry, and I watch it too much, is your health can suffer. Okay. And so what I mean by that is agents always struggle to have balance, and it is very feasible to have balance with the right system, but this is a burnout business. So I love listening to a few health podcasts that really can transform the way that you think about things, because mindset is everything. So definitely jump on Maddie Steinway's 31 Minutes podcast, and find a few health, you know, the health space is a bit scary too. There's a lot of lies out there, but, you know, try and find a place for your mindset at least once a week, because there is more to life than real estate, and your health needs to really factor into it. And you don't need to give real estate your life with the right system in place. But I definitely would encourage a lot of people to join some health. And obviously, Matty being a real estate agent himself, he talks about diet and wellness, and he still writes big figures every single day. So you're actually listening to somebody who's gone on a journey of complete burnout to now going and having a red light sauna every single day, and actually really happy in his life, and not feeling so affected every time he loses that listing.
So, hey, thank you so much. And so if people want to reach out to you, you mentioned your Instagram before,
Yeah.
but what is your Instagram for everyone?
You can get me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and it's always Immy Callister. So IMMYCALLISTER. Callister, you should know, is the Vegemite brand, but a lot of New Zealand. Do you eat Vegemite over there? No.
Vegemite, yeah, Vegemite.
Well,
And
my
Marmite.
family invented it. So look up Callister and you'll remember that name.
Wow. Thank you
So
so
sorry
much
to
for
everyone
joining
who
us
hates
today.
Vegemite.
No, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, anyone who wants to reach out to Immy, just contact her on her social channels. Thank you
Thanks
so
so much for
much.
having me. I'll see you soon.
Cheers. Awesome.